Welcome to Synthplex 2022. My name is Florentino Buenaventura, and I am your host today for Synthplex 2022 podcast. And we're going to be talking about all things happening at the Synthplex conference, happening on from October 27th through the 30th. And that is put on by Michael and Mike. And so I give a shout out to those guys. We are really excited about this conference. And probably even more importantly, we're excited about all the speakers, the performers, and obviously all of the exhibitors that are going to be there. All things synth oriented with all things audio related to synth. So with that said, my guest today is Mr. Jeffrey Weber, or Jeff Weber for some of his friends. The stark raving lunatic of the music industry, a good friend of mine. That's not me calling him that. That's his own press that he has. So, hey, welcome.
You found out my secret.
Oh, man, I know there's some good secrets in there, man. You've been in the studio with some major players. So I'll kind of give it a little brief summary. Jeff has worked with everybody from Pat Boone to Nancy Wilson and in between, Carpenters, you name it. Jeff has touched multiple genres of music, and he's won some Grammys, and he's done some huge record sales. So thanks, Jeff, for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah, man, this is awesome. We talk from time to time, obviously, and one of the exciting things that we found out is we were both going to be at the Synthplex show. So, tell us about how you got connected up with that.
Michael Boddicker is a longtime friend of mine. He worked on many of my records. Back in the glory days of studio recording. Actually, the glory days of studio recording are still going on, but Michael has progressed to bigger and better things, and love him for reaching out to me. Actually, we met about this at the NAMM show, a recent NAMM show, where he told me about Synthplex, and I said, well, if you're looking for any speakers, I'd love to do that. But I really am not going to talk about, keyboards and sequencers and synths and stuff like that. To his credit, Michael was very open about that. And I suggested a topic that a lot of people don't know about, but should. Then the negative aspect of it is called, hey, if you sign a major label record deal, your career is over, and I can prove it. That's what I'll be talking about at Synthplex. But the other side of the coin is there's tremendous opportunity as being an independent label, having your record released on an independent label, understanding the distribution of independent records, realizing that you would receive 100% of any sale that you make of any type of entity, whether it be streaming, downloads, God forbid, record sales, CD sales, vinyl sales. And it isn't that way on a major label. But the opportunity in independent labels is extravagant. And so we want to make sure that everybody understands how to do that. Not just saying how to do that, but actually letting you know how to do it, where to get distribution, all of those things, protecting yourself legally, all of the things that make it super easy to be on an independent label or start your own independent label.
Yeah, man, that's a major topic that needs to be addressed nowadays, and especially for people who are, in the synth world, have the opportunity to create and do all of the production yourself inside what they call the box, which is a computer, and some audio gear attached to it. So that is going to be an important thing for people to recognize. But before we jump into that, as you were saying that, you were saying you're working with Michael. Did you work with him back in the 70s or 80s, or did you do any work with players that were using synths back then?
I worked with him back when my hair was black and didn't come off at night. That's how long ago it was.
You still got more than I do.
How do you know? Anyway, At that particular time, when I was working with Michael and a bunch of other amazing instrumentalists and singers, there were no plugins. So in order to have keyboard sounds, you had to bring in the actual keyboard. So keyboard players would essentially create a U in the shape of the letter, where they'll have a stack of 4 keyboards on the left side of themselves, 4 keyboards in the middle, 4 keyboards on the right. So you actually couldn't see the guy that was playing because he actually had to play the specific keyboard to get the specific sound.
Yeah.
So I remember Michael was the king of that. I mean, he had every single thing that you could possibly want. And it was great. You know, unfortunately, at that time, I had a hard lesson in what cartage was about.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of cartage with that one. So
there's a lot of cartage. It was second only to percussion. But so the cartage, for those of you who don't know, is just the ability to actually bring all those keyboards into a recording studio, set them up, make sure they're all, plugged in, set up right, and at the end of the session, take them down. And it was a yeoman's job. And a lot of times, if you had 3 or 4 keyboard players, like we have had done, because a lot of the stuff that I do is live to 2 tracks with no mixing, editing, or overdubbing. So if we needed multiple keyboards, we needed multiple keyboard players. So you had, 12 keyboards from Mike, and maybe there was another fellow, he had another 12. Tom Rainier had another 12. So you're looking at 36 keyboards, and so you'd have to have your own mixing console. Actually, we had a record where we had our own mixing console specifically for synths in the studio. So all of the output of each synth went into the mixing console. And I forget, but I think we had a stereo out that went into the control room.
Wow.
It was really wild. And imagine live to 2 tracks.
That's what I was going to say. So that kind of brings me up to the topic I was leading to. How did you deal with a live to 2 track, and the synthesizers from that time used to detune themselves as you went along? How did you guys handle that?
Well, we basically had to go through the tune, and if there was a problem with the keyboard, we had to do the tune again. And that synth was, tuned again, if you will. And, these things are inexact in their science.
Yeah. So you guys were splicing, I'm assuming, then.
Well, at that point, there was no splicing because we were doing it live to 2 tracks. So we didn't have those long rows of tape with everybody identified and according to each fader. It was like, hey, listen, we're going to identify everybody. We're going to pre-mix everything, and then we're going to do the count off and say a silent prayer. And what happened was everybody was on the top of their game, and it became magic. And every once in a while, a keyboard would malfunction, and it wasn't really something that set us back anything. We just did it.
Yeah.
That's because we actually didn't know any better.
Yeah. So those are amazing stories, and obviously there is a romanticism about the walls of Moog synthesizers that people would bring, like Michael would bring in, and it's cool. There's going to be a kind of a shout out for the event. There's going to be a very awesome tribute to Keith Emerson, and he's known for his wall of synths when they would go on tour with Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Mark Padilla is leading that up, and they're going to be that's going to be happening the first night, I believe. I'll have to double check. But, guys, go to synthplex.com, synthplex.com. Check out the lineup. It's all there. So,
Man, I got to tell you, the lineup of speakers is phenomenal. I actually, while I'm there, I'm going to go hit up every single speaker that I possibly can because, man, they're amazing.
Oh, yeah. They're the keynote is actually going to be Jean-Michel Jarre. Hopefully I pronounced that right.
Oh, boy, that'll be great.
Yeah. I was actually peeping out his, as we're doing and getting ready for the, promotion and marketing of this fun stuff. We were checking out the concert he did in Houston back in the 80s. And I can't believe how far ahead of his time he was back then.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. A real trendsetter.
Yeah, for sure. And, kind of jumping back into that, you know, obviously you've been doing this for quite some time. I encourage you guys to look up Jeffrey Weber online. He is, you've also been like the vice president for the Record Association, right? And you've seen a few different things, and that's what you're going to really be discussing. It because we make the music, we're synth players, we create all this great stuff, and now we got to get it out, and that's where you come in, right?
Look, it's very simple. A contract is written in favor of the person who's writing it. So if it's a label, it's written in favor of that label. All I'm saying is let's make the playing field level so that artists, singers, musicians on equal footing with whomever they're signing a contract with. It's a partnership. And what's staggering to understand is that's not the way major labels look at it. But because they're, for for every major label, and there's only 3 left, there's 100,000 independent labels.
Yeah.
And the real key isn't forming a label. It isn't even in distribution, because you can get all of your music out to 150 plus e-retailers for $19.95.
Yeah, and you used, if I remember, DistroKid, right?
I use DistroKid. I mean, I like them very much from the standpoint that I'm not really too pleased with the customer service, but they do get the job done exceptionally well. Most of my products are up within 36 hours after I complete the process. And, it's fabulous. And all of the money goes directly to my clients. And it's 100% of whatever the price is.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, why do we need a major label? They're going to do the same thing. So, but yet, the pay scale is different.
Yeah, for sure.
An artist gets only the money from his artist royalty, not from the sale, but from what he would make. So it becomes really a stranglehold. And for me, recording contracts are games. There's hidden eggs, if you will, that explode if you don't discover them.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the game.
Yeah. I totally get that. We're going through and helping some artists launch their music, and you've given us some really good direction on that.
I'm sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. So yeah, you've given us some really good direction on that. And one of the things I learned is that, artists, probably one of the biggest changes is you can't just be an artist and expect someone to do it all for you. You've got to really kind of jump in, get your hands dirty, and learn about the business. You work with a lot of different artists. In fact, a lot of them are younger artists. You've got a young lady out of Australia, one that you're helping to mentor and possibly produce out of South Africa. How do you help an artist in that way to understand that it's not just about making music now? You've got to be like any other entrepreneur. You are now in business for yourself as an artist, and you need to make your your mark in both the business side, understanding all of the administration of a business and the legalities of getting songs cleared, having we've been going through sync licensing challenges just because it's not easy to get a sync license for a video, like if you're going to launch a music video of a cover song. So how do you help these artists to develop their understanding of what's required of them now, more than just being a singer or some type of player or synth, guy?
It's a great question, and one that actually every artist asks as well. It's basically tethered to the question, what now? Okay, so I've written a song, what now? Okay, so I've done a record, what now? In my process, which is, strikingly different than a lot of my associates, there are 3 components to recording: the pre-production, the production, and the post-production. We talk about everything in pre-production, And I use a strategy that I've created called the connective tissue theory of maintaining relevance, which means that everything that you do cannot be done in a vacuum anymore. For example, if you have a gig on Friday, you can't just do the gig. You have to collect the data. You have to, and what does that mean? That means that if you're smart about things, every single person in their audience will be approached by somebody on your team to ask for their name and email address. Because an artist who understands what the business is knows that every fan only wants two things: access and exclusivity. So if an artist can provide access and exclusivity to an audience member, that member becomes a soldier for that artist, no longer a friend on Facebook or, somebody on YouTube or anything like that. He will have a relationship with that artist and understand that now that guy is going to buy multiple copies of everything that artist does and be a soldier. It's a great way to get free advertising. I constantly use the phrase that let's just say that Florentino is a rock star. Okay?
I am. I am a rock star. I'm joking.
Not too far from the truth. And that Jeff Weber is a big fan. We've never met, though, and I've come to your shows, and you know that I'm there, but you don't know who I am. I'm just a name to you at this point. So after the fourth or fifth song of your first set, you say, "Hey, is Jeff in the audience? Jeff Weber, are you there?" Well, and everybody's looking around. I'm looking around. Oh, wait, it's me. I raise my hand, and you say, "Hey, Jeff, I love performing. I love recording. I love writing songs. I couldn't do it if it wasn't for people like you. Dude, this song's for you." Okay, remember access and exclusivity.
Yeah.
So what I do afterwards is like, oh, wait, Florentino gave me a shout out. So I call one of my buddies and I go, "Dude, Tino just gave me a shout out. This guy is off the hook. You know what? He's coming back to the same venue in about 14 weeks. And he said, if I can bring three of the fellas, we can come down and join him at soundcheck. Just him and the band and us. Dude, we're going. Oh, by the way, on my way out, I bought a CD. It only cost me $8. I bought you one too." Now that artist, access, and Florentino knows access and exclusivity. What did it cost? $0. Okay, soundcheck, $0. Okay, the next morning, every person that was at that show that gave one of the members of Florentino's team an email address gets a personalized email. "Hey, Tom. Hey, Bill. Hey, Betty. Hey, Susie. I'm really pissed. I'm pissed at myself because I knew that you came to my show and I didn't take the opportunity to let you know how crucial to my success you are. I wonder, do you have a toy hammer? One of those little toy hammers that you might give, one of your siblings. I want you to come down to my next show. If you'll forgive me, at the end of the set, please come forward to the front of the stage, pound the shit out of it with the toy hammer until you get my attention so that I can personally come down and let you know how crucial to my success you are. And sincerely, Florentino Buenaventura, rock star."
Me as a rock star, I can see me finally making publicity headlines with rock star killed with toy hammer.
Yeah, 20 of them at the same time.
Yeah, just
bludgeoned to death with plastic toy hammers, and the sound will be amazing. Anyway, so the idea is to create this relationship. But here's what's really happening, and this is how we sell music today. The real crucial point of this whole thing is to find your audience.
Yeah.
You have to rise above the noise. 60,000 songs released every day. How do you rise above the audience? So these are the things that we talk about. The peer-to-peer recommendation engine. We don't rely on radio. We don't rely on magazine ads. We don't rely on things that could be purchased. We rely on the truth of our friends who have similar tastes to us, stating, "Hey, listen, got to check out this guy Florentino, man. He is the shit." And where are they going to go? One of two places, TikTok or YouTube.
Yeah.
Those are the discovery engines. And they'll find out about Florentino. And all of a sudden, a new set of ears. Finding our audience is the key to sustainability, to sustaining a career in the music business.
And that's an interesting topic. Let me kind of jump to that. If I'm let's say I'm a EDM synth guy. I've got my my VST software. I've got my drum machines or whatever I use to create my beats. I have different synths. I have different software synths, all that stuff. I make this album that really I love. It's my baby. But it's if I'm not playing live, let's say I just want to kind of get it out. Obviously, we look back on somebody like we mentioned Jean-Michel Jarre. It's his time. I could hear with the clock in the background. With that said, Jean-Michel Jarre, when he launched, I remember him coming out, and he was actually almost categorized in the new age area. It was something different. Most people didn't. Most people don't realize he's the godfather of what we now know as EDM, and even the music being so influenced by DJs and everything else. He was one of the catalysts to bring that about. But it's weird to think of him now in that new age category, because I was a big fan of his when he first came out, and I'm still am, obviously. But it was just it's weird to think now. Obviously you get a Spotify title or any of these other music services, they have all these different genre categories. How does somebody like that? How does this player that's making like I said, making some type of EDM music that isn't readily found on radio stations, what do you say to that guy, and how do they get discovered?
Well, EDM and what did you say, New Age?
Well, Jean-Michel Jarre was classified New Age when I was buying CDs. Actually, I don't even think they had CDs in the 80s.
I think the reason for that is that at that time he was creating soundscapes, and soundscapes basically didn't have a structural component like pop music or R&B pop. There was these waves of wonderful sounds that went on and didn't really have the necessary groove that an EDM format would have. The pulsating repetition that dance music has as its core. And by the way, it's EDM music is one of the very few, if not the only genre that specifically excludes real musicians or musicians that aren't programmers. So you have a whole genre that is created around a beat or a groove. That didn't happen when Jean-Michel Jarre started off, and if it did, it was very, very slight. To have him categorized now as EDM is interesting, because that would mean that either he changed or the definition of the genre has changed. Now, what used to be hard rock and roll is now maybe adult contemporary, or hard rock is now pop. So all of those genre definitions have kind of morphed into something else. We really don't know what's what anymore. And in a way, that's a good thing, and in a way, it's a bad thing. We are used to a bin-oriented society. So if you went into a record store, you look for the section containing the type and style of music that you want. But that's not really what happened in the early days. Radio stations played everything. My kids like everything. Everybody that I know likes everything. They're not basically boxed into a specific genre of music. So, it's different strokes. Yeah. When I started getting into his stuff in the late 80s, he started doing a lot of arpeggio sequences, and he was actually doing, because he was in the same boat as Kraftwerk and Yellow Magic Orchestra and all those bands that kind of had that what we now know, the prototypes of EDM. He had got into that, like that the big concert he did in Houston, where he had all the lasers and all the video on the skyscrapers that they had through the glass. I mean, he turned that city into a big a light show with fireworks, and he was doing the precursor for EDM. Now it's like he's the new stuff I've been hearing from him is just incredible in that. But I think kind of going back to how that plays out with these artists, I think that's a unique challenge that they had a little bit back then, because you get pigeonholed into stuff that
they try to format you that way. You don't have that same thing now, so that's the opportunity. You can create your own, almost your own genre to a certain degree, but you got to find that audience. And so, do you think that it's kind of cut to the chase. Do you think that a solo synth player that's not a DJ that's making electronic music should get out and can get out and do this type of thing in in a live setting to build that audience, or what are your thoughts on that? Or can they do this from from their studio chair?
Live performance develops the relationship between the performer and the listener, and I think that it's crucial to the success of any performer to play live. And plus the fact, there's nothing like the euphoric feeling that any performer gets from the response from an audience. I think doing it from your studio or anything like that is a great way, but you lose that emotional
connection,
kind of surge that you would get from an appreciative audience.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that EDM exists because it's an experiential genre more than anything else, so that people basically want to have an experience that's both musical and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, the Electronic Daisy Carnival in Las Vegas is a classic example of people who go there and it's wow. It's such a wonderful and bizarre and wacky experience from the wardrobe to just the endless hours of those various beats. And, it's one of those experiences that you remember forever.
Yeah, for sure. And, kind of rounding that off, I think that there's going to be a lot of great players at this
Synthplex?
Synthplex. So I
expect there to be amazing players.
Yeah. So I would encourage everybody to come out. I mean, there's so many things to see. I mean, I don't know how you get it all done in 4 days, but it's going to be amazing. So with that said, one of the main things that you brought up earlier in the conversation was all the speakers, the knowledge base that's going to be at this event. I mean, obviously, you're going to be one of those. You're going to be talking about how to be an independent artist, how to avoid the pitfalls of of yesterday's way of doing it, and how to embrace and better understand how today's doing it. That's what you're going to be talking about.
Exactly.
What are some of the other things that you found that you've been doing these conversations at NAM and for colleges and all over, but what are some of the ones you're looking forward to for Synthplex?
Well, there are some amazing, I don't really know what the word is, but there's amazing speakers that actually build these wonderful sound collages of things that I could use for some of my artists. And, not just as passive beds, but as active components of an arrangement. And I'm really excited about some of these keyboard players that have an imagination that goes beyond just a setting on a keyboard. And to be honest with you, that's what I love. When I'm in the recording studio, one of the things that I do is I take a chart, I go to each individual musician, I show them the chart, and I ask them to please not play it. I'm hiring that person for themselves, not necessarily to read a chart. If they can inject what they know, how they feel about a song, their experience, their creativity, why would I restrict them to what's on the page? Playing the ink is basically just the introduction, but because they have so much more experience on their instrument than most arrangers, let's let each of those people contribute emotionally, sonically, creatively to this song. Who wins? My artist wins. Yeah. And they're invested, and the song just becomes magical.
So part of that education is networking too, it sounds like, because you're going to be meeting these artists that you might be able to work with for some of the artists that you're working with.
If I'm not talking, I'm listening. And there are so many people I saw on the speakers that I just want to hear. I'm not saying that I'm going to understand everything that is being told to me, because I'm not a synth player. So I don't really have that language under control. But just listening to what they do allows me to be creative for my artists.
That knob right there, I like that. What are you doing there?
Yeah. And also the problem is that, I'll never remember it anyway. But the point is that artist, that synth player will, that keyboard player will, and I can ask them if they would appear on some of my artists' records. I'm finding that I'm dealing more and more with international artists than, domestic artists, which is fine. And they're really young. But I love the idea that I'll be sitting in on all of these things. Maybe a lot of it will be over my head because I'm just a record producer. But a lot of it will be a holy cow moment that I want that person. Well, I've already checked a few names off.
Yeah. You kind of bring up a good point. A lot of people may not be clear on what a record producer really is supposed to do, because most people think, "Oh, I made a beat. Oh, I'm a record producer now." Yeah, so, just on a simple note, talk about what a record producer does, because it's not making it. Making beats can, and there's guys that do a good job, and but obviously the job is more than just understanding the groove. So. Tell us about what a record producer is.
Okay, this is a really loaded question.
Oh yeah, it is. It is totally.
You're so naughty.
Both barrels.
Thank you for asking, because it's a particular, it's a point of contention for me, because being a record producer is so much more than creating a beat. And I look at creating a beat as someone who can use a drum machine or a keyboard to create a beat. The relationship between an artist and a producer is born outside of the recording studio. It needs to kind of develop in terms of trust. So that artist makes big mistakes, takes huge chances, understands the boundaries of where that person is at the time, and is not afraid to exceed them. We never hear anybody say, "I learned from my success. It's only from my failures." I want people to make big mistakes because I know they're at least trying. Now, there are such a thing as what I call producer hyphenates. A producer hyphenate is a producer / something else, a producer / beat maker / songwriter / engineer / arranger / artist. Every single time there's a hyphenate, it is my humble opinion, the producer has to pay attention to something other or in addition to the artist he's producing. I feel that's a letdown. I am one of those guys that has a great team that allows me to kind of develop a relationship with my artists. And believe me, this takes months and months and months to develop a relationship of trust where that artist, who is, in my experience, very young, very inexperienced, very nervous about going into a studio with the caliber of players that we use, and shakes all that off and sings as if it were her last day on this planet. And that performance comes out as her legacy to all her friends and family and everyone else.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to that point. And it also, a producer has to understand that there is a point of no return. So when you're pushing your vocalist, at what point do you say, "Okay, you're done for the day"? A lot of singers say, "Well, I can sing all night." We can't. You can't. I've got just 2 or 3 hours max at the level of quality, at the level of emotional appeal that I need in order to make a connection to the listener. Outside of that, we'll come back another day. But, it's crucial that a producer understand his artist. It's crucial that they relate to them in a way that gives them a comfort and a feeling that they can do anything.
Yeah.
And then when they walk into the studio, regardless of the apprehension from seeing people they don't know, and our business is judgmental from the minute we wake up to the minute we go to sleep. How to get through that.
Yeah. That's these are all the key points, because I think a lot of, if there are listeners that are just coming into the business, it's important to understand what the foundational elements are of your role and what you're attempting to do. Because if you don't, if you look at it only from the superficial level of what it looks like here in the world, it's one of those things that your time will tell.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry that my Westminster chime clock just goes off and just makes it annoying every 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's all good. It's all good. This is, we're just having conversations here, and that's what Synthplex is all about. At the end of the day, it's presentation, it's keyboards, it's technology, but it's about communication and conversations. And
I want to meet these people to make my records better. And the people that are the speakers, the people that are attendants, man, they know a ton more than I do about their instrument and about the creativity and how they kind of affect the material that I'm working on. And I couldn't be more excited just to kind of sit with these people and, try to figure this out and work them into my recordings, because they win, the artist wins, I win, the audience wins.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking at the Synthplex website, and I was looking to see when you're going to be presenting. What day and time are you going to present it? Because I'm not finding it just at this moment.
I think it's Saturday at 1:00.
Okay.
I think that's what it is. I can check that in a second. I think I wrote it down on my calendar so I wouldn't be a day late.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. That's in October. Yeah, mine is at 2 p.m. on the 29th. Of October.
Yeah, that would be that Saturday. And then I should have had this up before I started the conversation, but it's all good. We are looking at that Keith Emerson that performance from Mark Bonilla, that tribute is going to be.
When is that?
That's going to be on Thursday at night. I think it's 7:00 is what I was looking at. And then actually what I'm probably really excited about, because I've been a huge fan, is Steve Porcaro is going to be there, of the Porcaro family.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So
he doesn't really make a lot of public appearances anymore.
If you're Michael Boddicker and Mike Learmouth, I'm sorry, Mike. I made that. It's Learmouth, like Plymouth. So I'll probably edit that. Mike Learmouth. All right, let me try that again. And Mike Learmouth, you're going to find that it's you can talk to people that you wouldn't normally get a chance to connect with.
I think that's the key. I mean, from one synth player to talk with Steve, who was the synth architect of so many great songs from Toto. It's just amazing to have the ability just to sit with him.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, to have that chance, it's going to be huge. And then, like I said, there's all kinds of other great speakers and performers. I encourage you guys. I don't want to give everything away on the podcast, but go check out synthplex.com, synthplex.com, to find out more and get your tickets. There's different levels, and it's a game changer for you. I mean, I think that you're going to find that there's a lot that you're going to be able to get from that. So, with that said, as we're kind of rounding out the end of the show here, what do you want the listeners to leave with about what you're going to present at Synthplex and just in general about their careers?
I want them to know that they're smarter and they have more ability, and there's an open field for success for them. And if you understand what is in anything that you are looking to do, whether it be an agreement or an endorsement deal, if you just understand what it is, you'll make a decision quite easily. I'm here to say that, hey, this is the greatest time on the planet to be in the record business. And it's not because of the major labels, it's because what can be done without them. And it's a fabulous time because no one knows what's really happening in the record business, because there's no central core anymore, which means that anybody, any synth player with an idea, with an element of creativity, can find their audience. It's a combination of public performance and social media. and really have a sustainable career. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what everybody wants, is to be in the music business, for years. My definition of success is the ability for anyone to do what they love to do. Again, if we gather up enough of those agains, we call it a career. And that's what I'm all about.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, folks, make sure you join us at Synthplex 2022 from October 27th through the 30th. 4 days of amazing information, performances, and the coolest technology on the planet. In fact, there's going to be a few companies that I didn't get a chance to see at NAMM this year. So this is going to be exciting to see what their new offerings are, like Roland and there's just a few other companies that we'll get a chance to experience here. Make sure that you also as you're going there, meet and network. So get that career going.
Oh yeah, man! I'm looking forward to handing out as many business cards as I can. So if anybody wants to talk to me, it's open season.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be having another episode of Synthplex 2022 podcast coming up next week. So stay tuned. We will let everybody know the guest as we move along through the series. Thanks.